Warning, this video contains spoiler alerts.
From novel to manhwa to anime and being crowned the best anime of 2025, Solo Leveling has a lot to offer in terms of being dynamic and action-packed to being warm-hearted and selfless. In this video, we will be reviewing Season 1 of Solo Leveling. Though this would not contain much spoilers since we've seen it already, consider this a refresher for those of you who've read the manhwa, or novel, or both. This is only part 1 of a 3-part review, with 1 video per season. I hope you enjoy and find this video informative. And be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this and much more. Now let's get right into it. Many manhwas start off as novels, and South Korea is famous for creating engaging manhwas, with its most popular genres being isekai, fantasy, and game systems. The story is written by Chugong and the webtoon adaptation was made by Jang Sung-rak. Solo Leveling Ragnarok is currently being written by Doll with Chugong's blessing. Solo Leveling starts off like any other game system manhwa. The MC is usually the lowest ranked who's looked down on by others, or was a great high ranker who was betrayed by the supposed hero of that world, or both. But they all were offered a second chance to fulfill a greater purpose than being ordinary hunters of magical beasts. Solo Leveling introduces Sung Jinwoo, the lowest ranked and weakest hunter, who tried his best to survive just to support his family after his father had disappeared while entering a gate. A-ranks were always looked down upon for being the weakest by higher ranked hunters, and Jinwoo was no exception. He was even given the nickname the weakest hunter of all mankind since he was always compared to the most powerful hunter in South Korea and guild master for the Hunters Guild. The Hunters Guild is one of the top 5 largest guilds in South Korea, with 2 S-ranked hunters leading the guild, along with White Tiger, Fame, and Reaper, who are also run by their own S-ranked hunter. However, the Knights Guild is only run by A-ranked hunters and is known for having the largest number of A-ranked hunters in South Korea. Jinwoo never told anyone what his real reason for taking a dangerous job like becoming a hunter was, and just kept on surviving until he finally achieves his goal and continues to grow stronger, to the point where he rivaled gods. Everyone should know this show by now after it was crowned Best Anime of the Year for 2025. It has become a fan favorite for many since it first aired. Solo Leveling comprises a total of 22 arcs, 179 chapters, and 21 side stories that explain the transition from Solo Leveling to Solo Leveling Ragnarok. Season 1 comprises of the first 7 arcs and 45 chapters of the manhwa. In D-Rank Dungeon Arc, chapters 1 to 10, it starts off by telling the history of gates and hunters and the raid 3 years ago to take back Jeju Island from an S-rank gate. Then it goes to the present day, where a raid party gathered at a construction site where a dungeon gate had appeared. Gates usually take about 7 days until a dungeon break occurs and all the monsters within rampage across the city, putting the civilians in danger. The party was led by a fire element mage who was a C-rank hunter, Song Chi-yeol. Jinwoo joins them in an attempt to earn some money to support his family. Most of the party doesn't show much respect for Jinwoo, but they try to hide it. One in particular, who was a swordsman, Kim Sang-shik, who would rather leave Jinwoo to die in a dungeon instead of helping him survive. But a B-rank healer, Lee Joo-hee, had always supported Jinwoo in his raids and made sure that he was safe until the end of the raid. After beating the boss, the dungeon showed no signs of closing, and a strange tunnel leading to a boss room was found at the end. Entering this tunnel instead of reporting it to the guild was done by vote, with Jinwoo being the deciding factor. The room was filled with large statues, some with weapons, others with instruments, and the largest who sat as a god on his throne. They had entered a temple and were trapped inside. Only Jinwoo was able to understand what the 3 rules meant. The first rule, worship God, means to bow down to it. The second rule, praise God, means to stand in front of the statues holding instruments. The third rule, prove thy faith, means to offer a sacrifice. Jinwoo was that sacrifice and volunteered to stay behind after losing his leg and not seeing himself worthy of leaving. But that thinking changes when the ritual begins, and he thinks about his regrets and what he could not accomplish. Then the system saves him. Only 6 of 13 survived. In Reawakening Arc, chapters 11 to 12, Jinwoo wakes up in a hospital and meets 2 hunters from the Korean Hunters Association. Jin Chul-woo was the closest to the chairman, Go Gun-hee, and is among the first to suspect Jinwoo as a reawakened hunter, since most hunters' rank are set since their first awakening. But he had his doubts when the reading was very low. What he did not realize was that this was only the start of Jinwoo's second awakening. Manager Woo continues to keep his eye on Jinwoo after an incident happened where another manager from the association was killed inside a gate. Jinwoo was then selected as a player for the system and was given training, which he first ignores and ends up in the penalty zone where giant centipede monsters reside in a vast desert. This left Jinwoo no choice but to run away from them for 4 hours. He then gets used to using the system and increasing his stats by training daily since he now knows that the game system was not a hallucination. He was then given a reward, a key to an instant dungeon that traps him in a dimensional space so the outside is not harmed. He then takes on the quest on his own without a party and no healer. In Instant Dungeon Arc, chapters 13 to 17, Jinwoo explores the dungeon and comes across his first opponents. His improved abilities showed that the stats made a large difference compared to his old self, and he used the fact that the double dungeon was far worse than what he was now facing. He found out the meaning of the different colored tags. White was weaker than him, orange was same strength as him, and red was more powerful than him. Jinwoo went up against the dungeon boss after killing all the monsters to gain EXP points for his stats. He faced some difficulty while fighting the giant sea serpent but was successful in clearing the dungeon. He then learns that a dungeon break had occurred on the surface while he was gone, and he goes over to help by dealing 1 blow to the monster to destroy its shield. But he does not gain any recognition for defeating the monster after leaving to conceal his identity. Chu-hee was also among the defending party, and she had her suspicions after noticing him leaving. In Dungeon and Lizard Arc, chapters 18 to 24, Jinwoo's appearance started to change as he continued training, and so did his attitude. He was no longer the weak and timid Jinwoo, but a new Jinwoo whose goal was to become the strongest to protect those closest to him. Jinwoo was then discharged from the hospital and goes home to his sister, who was surprised that his physical appearance changed. This was because of his strength stats. He looks for a gate to take on and meets Jinho, who becomes his loyal friend after witnessing how powerful Jinwoo was. They join a raid party led by Hwang Dong-suk, the older brother of a Korean S-rank hunter who now lives in the USA as a member of the scavenger guild, Hwang Dong-soo. But Jinwoo gets suspicious of them for only have tanks and damage dealers, and no healers, as raid team members. He remembers what Hunter Song told him when he now started. There were corrupted hunters who killed other hunters in the dungeons just to keep all the treasures for themselves. They were called lizards for cutting off their tails, which were the weakest of the group. Jinwoo protects Jinho and fights the party as they tried to kill him. The raid party dies by Jinwoo's hands, and Jinho vowed to keep his talent a secret after thinking that Jinwoo was a false ranker, who were considered psychopaths who kill people for fun. Jinwoo then acquires a new skill. In Dungeons and Prisoners Arc, chapters 25 to 34, Jinho contacts Jinwoo to get his help in clearing 19 more C-rank gates, so he can get his guild master's license to become the head of the new guild his father wants to create. Jinwoo was promised a building worth 30 million won. He refuses at first but later agrees to Jinho's request so he can easily level up in stronger dungeons. Dong-suk's younger brother, Hwang Dong-soo, learns of his brother's death, but he knew that it was murder and not an accident. Jinwoo then acquires a key as a reward for doubling his training stats and goes to the demon's castle where he faces off against the guard of the castle gate. It was difficult for him to defeat since its tag was red, but he was able to defeat it and acquired his next main goal, acquire all the ingredients for the elixir of life. He knew that he was not strong enough to take on the castle, so he keeps the key to the gate and returns home to gain more EXP. He was then assigned to clear a gate and met Hunter Song, Lee, Kim, and another survivor from the double dungeon incident. Hunter Kim and the other hunter were still ashamed for leaving Jinwoo to die in that dungeon. Hunter Song led the party and joins prisoners who were hunters that were allowed to take part in raids to reduce their sentences. They were kept under watch by an association hunter, Kong Tae-shik, who came with manager Woo to visit Jinwoo in the hospital. While the raid continued, they were separated and Hunter Kim discovered Hunter Kong murdering the prisoners he brought as requested by a client. The two hunters died by Kang's hands and Jinwoo stepped in to stop him from killing Song and Lee, after they tried their best against him. A similar quest appeared just like the one he got when he fought Dong-suk in his raid party. He kills Hunter Kong and noticed that he felt different after finishing him. Hunter Song and Lee promised to keep what happened a secret and claimed responsibility for killing Hunter Kong. Manager Woo apologized for the incident his subordinate made and warned Jinwoo of Dong-soo coming after him for revenge. In Jinho Raid Party Arc, chapters 35 to 37, Jinwoo and Ju-hee talk in the park and she returns the essence stone that he gave to her when he was left to become the sacrifice. After that, Jinho introduced Jinwoo to their raid party and began clearing dungeons one after the other. With all the C-rank dungeons being bought up, a manager at the White Tiger Guild, and Sangmin, came to meet Jinwoo after finding out who he was, and also suspecting him as a reawakened hunter. He wanted to recruit Jinwoo to the White Tiger Guild, but Jinwoo refused after he could not give him the White Tiger Guild's headquarters building that was worth 50 million won. Jinwoo then requested some money to have the White Tiger Guild purchase C-rank gates from them, but then Jinho starts selling more of their purchased C-rank gates at lower prices. Chiefin saw that he was played, and Jinwoo contacted him, giving the chief his number and trust in the process. In Job Change Arc, chapters 38 to 45, Jinwoo receives a job change request and enters a dungeon where he battles against armor-type monsters. He realized that he was reliving his past battle experiences and using what he learned to his disposal. He used his bare hands to fight them when daggers didn't work, and he used the armor he received from the drops to prepare himself for the boss, Igris. Jinwoo found him too powerful and tried his best to defeat him. When he did, the real job change quest began and he was overwhelmed from the battle with Igris. A timer was set to see how long he could survive against the hordes of knights and the mages that were summoning them. Jinwoo then started to hear voices and was surrounded by people he knew who kept telling him that he did enough. He sees his old self asking him why he did all of this when it was futile. But Jinwoo didn't listen to any of them, including his old self. He then saw the screen for not completing his daily training and was transported to the penalty zone. He recovered with the potions he couldn't use in the dungeon and defeated the giant centipedes, who were now orange tagged, to gain more EXP before returning to the quest. He defeated the mages and gained his job class, along with a new power. He first got Necromancer as his job class, but it then evolved into Shadow Monarch after exceeding all of the requirements. He was able to summon the shadow soldiers of the fallen mages and knights, and brought Igris to his side after the third attempt. Jinwoo now had an army by his side. Throughout the season, we're introduced to 4 of the S-rank hunters in Season 1. Hunters Choi Jong-in, Baek Yoon-ho, and Cha Hae-in, and Chairman Go Gun-hee. But direct interaction between them and Jinwoo starts in Season 2 when people start to notice him. 2 other hunters were shown at the beginning of Season 1, but one died and the other retired. Hunter Choi and Cha went with other hunters to investigate Jeju Island's current threat levels and discovered that the ants were evolving. We also see Jinho's attempts to get his father's approval to become the head of their company's guild and competing with his older brother. We even see Jina carrying on with her studies and Jinwoo's mother, who was in the hospital due to eternal sleep disease, which was caused by prolonged exposure to mana. These 2 reasons are what pushes Jinwoo to become a hunter. The first theme song to any anime series is always the most iconic, and Solo Leveling is no exception. But not only the theme songs of the show were good. All the music included was just cinematic. The opening theme demonstrated themes of awakening and self-empowerment. The lyrics reflect Jinwoo's shift from helplessness to agency. But this was also a metaphor for breaking free from fate, since Jinwoo isn't just leveling up in power, but also rewriting his destiny. The ending theme demonstrated themes of reflection and identity. The lyrics nod to Jinwoo's internal struggle and the duality between his human self and the emerging shadow monarch. The visuals often show him isolated, walking through dim corridors, symbolizing his loneliness and fear of losing his humanity. Choosing an action-packed moment from a show like Solo Leveling is very difficult, since every episode had action to it. But I would say the battle between Jinwoo and Igris was the best. To me, I think the best moment of Season 1 is when Igris was raised as a shadow soldier and became Jinwoo's first high-ranked soldier. The art in the manhwa made it look beautiful, but so did the show. In episode 9 of Season 1, the fight between Jinwoo and Hunter Kong showcased Jinwoo's aura when he dealt the final blow to defeat Kong. It just showed that Jinwoo does belong as an assassin-class hunter. But being classed as a mage for his shadow summons was a convenient cover, so no one could suspect what he was capable of without his shadow soldiers. Solo Leveling isn't as comedic as it was in the manhwa, since the story more centers around themes of regret, power, responsibility, courage, and mystery. Solo Leveling is a very engaging story with a lot more to it in its world. The story further goes on to show Jinwoo's journey to S rank, the truth to why the gates exist, and what Jinwoo really was and why he was chosen. Then, the story transitions to his son, who is just as powerful but walks a different path than simply solo leveling. This is the end of Part 1 of Solo Leveling Review. Next time we'll be looking at Season 2's review. Make sure to like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell to be notified of Part 2.